Hey everybody, what's going on? It's two Andys and a Hank. We're we're back. We're
Back
back
again.
once again. Fandom Crew, episode 6. Everybody out there in out there land, I hope they had a merry Christmas and a happy New Year.
Safe
I
and Happy New Year.
say and safe, absolutely
Hmm
safe. I at like 11:08. Lauren had fallen asleep and she asked me to wake her up just before midnight. And like at 11:08, I was on Twitter doom scrolling because
Uh-oh.
that's how you want to end the year, and I saw a clip of a crab, and I went, "Oh
Nice.
no!" And I closed the window right away and went, "I forgot to watch tonight's episode because it was New
Oh,
Year's Eve, right?
yeah.
Not that I was at a party or anything, but so that's kind of what I did from 11:09 until I woke Lauren up at around I don't know 20 to 12, and we went outside for the sounds of fireworks and people screaming. It was kind of fun.
hmm
Um, but so that I mean, it was an awesome episode to bring in the new year.
Really was. Like
Yeah,
packed full of adventure. Uh, a couple edge of your seat moments. Even like a Toy Story 3. Like, holy crap, is this it?
yeah, absolutely.
But
Do you have access to that little button for that tradition that we have there?
I do have access to that little
You
button.
have that little button
Is it
there?
time for that?
Yeah, I think it's time. We might as well kick it off.
With another.
Bad Star Wars pirate jokes.
That gets me every time.
Yeah.
What is Hondo Anaka's favorite letter?
Oh, I don't think it would be as simple as R,
Oh, it's a
but
good guess for a pirate, but I think that one's been played out.
I think so.
Yeah. It's actually the letter he got from Mon Mothma exonerating him for his crimes. Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's a good letter too.
First impressions, man.
First impressions, Goonie vibe still strong.
Heavy Goonie vibes.
It was kind of weird to see them kind of split off into their little groups, but it makes all the more rewarding when they come back together. So
I really liked the direction in this one. I've been a fan of hers, Bryce Dallas Howard, since the I guess her first. I mean, before I was aware of her, but I wasn't, I wasn't studying her like we do now. And
mm,
so ever since that first Mando episode that she directed, which was like, it's so out of place in that first season where he like practically falls in love and he's ready to take his helmet off and settle down on a little plantation before the ATSTs and the
yeah,
pirates come. So like and I'm watching her grow as a director and all these little things that she's done, especially in the Star Wars world. At least I'm watching her
hmm
grow like a Star Wars director, and some of her choices in this are amazing. The quick cuts back and forth. There's not a ton of dialogue, but there's a ton of information, exposition that we get
hmm
like in the form of just emotional beats. Good stuff, man.
absolutely.
Yeah, should we?
Yeah,
Excuse me. Should we? Let's
let's
jump
dive into
in.
her here.
We got there. Well, it is Skeleton Crew, episode 6. Zero Friends Again, directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who I just gushed about. Written by Myung Jo Wessner. I hope I got that right. I'm real sorry. She's returning. Uh, she's a relative newcomer, but she did write the last episode and episodes of High Potential and Death and Other Details, all since 2024. She's a pretty newcomer. Air date was New Year's Eve, 2024.
It was a
Runtime
year
was
ago.
yeah, a whole year ago. See, I don't know how I remember it so well. Runtime's 33:01 with bookends or 26:11 without, so it's practically an Ewoks episode. I was saying that to Wes. It's a pretty
Nothing wrong with
short
that
one.
though.
Yeah, no, I mean, but a ton happens in such a
It
short
does.
time. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got that sort of. We talked about that on the Filoni written stuff. That animating style pacing,
hmm
that you get from like Clone Wars and Rebels.
Yeah.
Um, Synopsis is relationships fray under the pressure of a difficult journey.
Hmm. Got a couple comments coming in already here
Oh,
tonight.
right on.
Josh is with us. Says, "Hey fellas."
Josh,
Sarah's in the
what's
house
going
too.
on? You know what we
Says,
did?
Happy New Year, guys. Happy New Year to you as well.
We didn't address the elephant in the room, and we just jumped right in with both feet.
We
'Cause
kind of did.
we're super.
We're one beard shy.
We're one beard shy. We never so. Wes goes on secret missions
He does.
this time
To
every year.
parts unknown.
Yeah, and so we're one man down, like a pirate ship, man overboard.
Yep.
But we're gonna keep going. So if anybody was wondering, he didn't quit. The
No.
Beatles aren't breaking up or anything like that. Just he's gonna give his beard time to come back in.
Yep.
Yep.
So he's gone to nurture it and relax.
He's probably secretly watching, going, "They didn't even say anything about me. They're just go. They don't need me. They're just going."
Wrong, sir.
We
Wrong.
love you and enjoy yourself. Okay, we got this,
Mhm.
baby. Where are we to? Okay, picking right up where we left off in episode 5. The crew careens down a series of tubes like it's a water park, yelling and screaming. The dark passages lit intermittently with orange service lights. The kids scream and yell as the twists and turns and sharp banks and corners, eventually moving them into individual chutes. We are heavily reminded of the scene from Empire where Luke is dashed through the exhaust conduits of Cloud City immediately after the big reveal. Also, another in a long line of Goonie homages.
All you need is a little bit of water going through there, and
Absolutely.
but
Headed at breakneck speed toward the light and spit out of their respective shafts, the kids all land hard in the harsh, snowy surface of Lanupa into what looks like an old scrapyard.
lucky the snow was there because they hit
Lucky.
hard.
It doesn't seem very thick on the ground. Like there's
No.
areas where I was looking at that going, it's like a dusting on the ground. There's
Yeah.
patches of bare sand which come into play later. Neil spots KB lying motionless and rushes to her side as Fern and Wim stir, wrought but uninjured. Neil calls to them for help. Fern dashes over quickly, calling her friend's name. Wim close behind her. Fern says something. Sometimes KB's augs go bad and she can't move. Weakly, KB nods. Still conscious. Taking the initiative, Fern tells her she's going to reset the occipital link, suggesting that she's done this before.
Mm-hmm.
The gang all help her gently roll KB onto her side. Fern sets to work fiddling in the back of her head, assuring the boys that the girl will be fine. And we cut to our title card. When we return from our title card, a hatch in the floor of the spa landing pad snaps open, and an ebullient Jod Na Nawood climbs to
Whatever
freedom,
his name is.
dripping with more treasure than Mr. T in the 80s.
Yes.
Lost in his joy, he struggles out of the opening. Jod becomes aware he's directly in front of the hotelier, a couple of alien guests, and some of the staff. He immediately begins the grift, smiling, telling her, "I'm glad you're here," tucking handfuls of loot into his pockets of the stolen coat. "I want to check out immediately, refuel my ship. It's for my imminent departure." But lost in the game, he's failed to notice Gunter 10 meters behind him, his blaster trained on his back. The pirate first mate barks at Jod not to move, as more pirates secure the hotel guards.
And he wastes no time, does he?
No, zero time.
It's like from one grift, let's move right on to the next one.
He's way more like the Lando character
Yes.
than when the chips are absolutely down.
Yeah.
Jod turns toward Gunter, taking steps toward him, still in full con man mode. "I was coming to find you," echoing Han Solo's, "Yes, Greedo, I was just going to see your boss." Recall that he just boiled a bunch of guys in acid, right? I was just coming to find you. Nonetheless, he continues his cocky strut. "Down there's the biggest pile of loot you will ever lay your eye on." But Gunter's having none of it. Beef and another weak-way pirate grab Jod. Meanwhile, off to the side, Pocket the bounty hunter waves nonchalantly at him. But the former Mad Captain Silbo still has an ace up his sleeve, screaming to his mechanical cohort, "33 attack!" With a hearty "Aye, Captain," the pirate droid springs from the hatch, equally adorned in jewels and treasure, only to be immediately gunned down with an ion blast. 33, deactivated, slumps to the deck, only having made it halfway out the hatch. In the background, we can see several aliens, including Mon Calamari. The alien directly to his left, I couldn't figure out his species. But he's listed in the Last Jedi credits as Dowager Alien. And I got that from a Google image search of that character, which led me to actor and prosthetic artist Paul Warren's IMDb, where
Hmm.
he's listed as having played that uncredited character in The Last
Nice.
Jedi. The balloony alien at the right is a Z-Deck, the same species as Ubla Marlborough, the singer from Canto Bite and TLJ. So there's
Another
another
Cantabite reference.
another Canto Bite reference. And I couldn't identify the other two species, try as I might. If
That's all good.
anybody's got that out there, let me know. That'd be awesome. Let us know in the comments.
And we did get a nice look at Pocket's hand, right? So we'd see that she doesn't have the really long fingers like.
That's true. It's looking more and more like that she is the same species as Sly Moore, I think.
Mm.
Shoved forward, Pocket puts an arm around her quarry. No hard feelings, Dash. Calling him by the alias she knows him as, telling him it's been wonderful to run into him before planting a kiss on his cheek. A
I still
corn
can't
pirate.
not hear Merida when she talks.
That's funny. I've had the luxury of not seeing that yet,
Oh,
but
really?
well, I don't know if it's a
Once you see
luxury or
it,
not. Yeah,
once you see it,
I
you'll
would
hear it.
imagine that's a very distinctive Scottish brogue.
Yeah.
A corn pirate alerts Gunter and the crew to a sudden approach of a squadron of X-Wings who swoop overhead, laying down a volley of warning fire. Gunter sounds the retreat, screaming at Brutus's crew to get to the ship, bring the droid. As the four New Republic fighters circle around, two pirate transports take off from the landing pad, desperate to flee. They're totally like the cops now, eh? That's
Mhm.
I'm getting like it's like call the New Republic if you've got a
Yeah. If you got a problem
right
and you
nine.
can't solve it,
It's
you can find them.
New 11
Call the
911.
X-Wings.
Yeah. Snap cut to KB lying in the snow flat on her back. Her hand shoots up, pointing overhead. Pirates! As the X-Wings vector behind the transports, laying down a volley of pink plasma bolts, the kids all scramble to their feet. Neil helps KB to her feet as she's still wobbly. Wim remarks that the ships that have arrived appear to be fighting the pirates off, noting that they look just like the one Kim called to arrest Jode on the observatory moon. Vern reminds him that they're called X-Wings, and the first time I watched this, the first time that night, I thought I totally misheard her saying next wings,
Mm.
which is like what sort of new people call X-Wings when they
Yeah.
mishear it. And I laughed my guts out because I thought it was on purpose. I had to like change a section of my notes to reflect that she actually called them X-Wings because I thought it was an awesome joke.
Mm-hmm.
As the skeleton crew look on, one of the New Republic T-65 fighters scores a hit, damaging an engine, leaving it trailing fire and black smoke. Neil thinks out loud that weren't they the bad guys, but Wim understands now that Jode was lying the whole time. These are the good guys. Sweeping low over our heroes in pursuit of the wounded ship, the kids wave their arms and yell at the Republic ships who follow the pirate around a craggy mountain and out of sight. Frustrated at not being able to garner help, KB admits it's too bad because she's got the coordinates home memorized. Perfect, announced Vern, thinking that all they have to do is climb back up to their ship and go home. Looking up the cliff top far above, you can just see the Cinder's engines hanging over the edge.
Josh has got to run on us, but he'll catch the replay.
Yeah, man.
You have a good week too.
Awesome. Happy New Year, brother. But KB finally speaks her mind. Her tone is now serious, telling Fern flatly, it's not perfect. It's impossible. She briskly walks off her back to the group. Fern tells the boys to stay put and makes her way to the disgruntled friend. Running to her, Fern asks if KB is indeed, you're okay, right? KB doesn't acknowledge, but Fern continues, knowing Wim will fight her on climbing the cliff, but she asks KB, how should we play this? Like, KB's not even upset with her.
Mm-hmm.
She's not even sure if Neil could make it. KB cuts her off mid-sentence, telling her maybe she should consider other options, but Fern can't think of another option but climbing. KB's agitated that Fern would assume that if she couldn't think of alternatives, that would mean that there were none. Fern doesn't understand KB's frustration. Kay informs her that if she's actually interested in listening for once, maybe they would talk things through. But Fern returns her energy. If there's something that's so important to me that you want to tell me, go ahead. And like there's some acting going on there. Like
Mm-hmm. They're generating some proper tension.
the kids have chops, and now like so we have a very skilled director who's giving them cues for sure. But I'm seeing chops from these two. Like, and there's a bit coming up that's where it I mean I think it might be even next slide. It's next level stuff actually. I really am enjoying what's happening.
And like you'd mentioned like earlier, this is probably one they shot later on because the chemistry there.
Yeah, the chemistry is,
So
yeah, it's
it's more apparent.
absolutely. Uh, but Neil calls to Fern panicked, putting a pause on the tension between the two girls. He exclaims, "We're not alone down here." A new hope echo from the trash compactor. There's something alive down here. Stomping his feet as bits of debris begin to move around them. Fern runs over to the boys, telling them to get away from whatever it is. It could be dangerous. But Wim, on his knees, interacts with the creature, saying they're friendly. He extends a finger to a creature who holds it gently in its crab like claws. The hermit crab like creature, shelled in all manner of spare metallic junk, all begin to chant in unison, "Friendly, friendly." Wim makes a logic leap that if they can talk, they're intelligent, and therefore they could help. But Neil is adamant, sufficiently freaked out by the creatures who now gather in slightly larger numbers, one even sporting a Civil Protocols droid's lower leg as its home. No, sorry, no, 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 no.
Somebody didn't observe Qui-Gon's lesson. The ability to speak does not make you smart.
That's right. That's, yeah, good point. Fern is still set on her plan. They need to climb back to the ship. Wim points way up to the cliff top, mocking her. You'll fall and smash all the bones in your body. The two briefly throw back and forth a couple of no you won'ts, yes I wills, before Fern finally loses her temper, shouting at him, "I'm not doing this stupid baby fight," emphatically telling him, "This isn't a game." But Neil inserts himself between them, demanding they stop fighting. Ever the peacekeeper, he says they have to work together to get back to the cinder. Uh, Wim comments, Wim says that means following the crabs to a local who can help them, and the crabs begin to chant, "Follow, follow." Fern, exasperated, uh, Fern's exasperated face turns to shock when KB tells the group she's siding with Wim. Fern says fine, they'll split up, telling Neil to follow her. Fern and KB lock eyes as Fern passes, and they hold each other's gaze so intensely, I thought it was a UFC weigh-in. You can even see it in that shot in the bottom left. Man, that was an excellent scene. Like, did they tell them that they each stole each other's boyfriends, or that somebody killed a dog, or ripped the hair out
Yeah.
of a doll, or something there? Because
They're
that
both
was
given
intense,
death glares.
very intense. Yeah,
Yeah.
well done. Neil tries to smooth things over. Staying in groups of two does make the most sense, and once they reach the ship, they'll come and get them. Wim says he and KB will already be there waiting. And with the local star setting behind the snowy mountains, the skeleton screw, the skeleton screw, oh my, the skeleton crew split in two. KB lingering a moment after her friend before following Wim in the other direction. Super powerful performances from the kids here, and a scene echoing when R2 and 3PO have the Battle of Wills in the desert on Tatooine.
Yep. For sure.
Go that way. Cut to the blackness of space as the wounded pirate frigate approaches the pirate fleet. Notice there was only one. The subtitles and the voice description seem to indicate that there were only two X-wing when I clearly saw four.
Yeah, there was absolutely four.
And I'm sure my first watch through that one got shot down and they chased the second one around the mountain, but apparently they were chased. They just wounded it and chased it, and it got away because it's the same ship in all
Still
sort
smoking.
of three of those instances. Still smoking. Yeah, absolutely. Cut to the blackness of space as the wounded pirate frigate approaches the pirate fleet. It banks and veers for the docking bay of Brutus's capital ship. On board, the Katerian pirate Snobbius Snee, continuing the cavalcade of TLJ aliens, presides over the trial of Silbo, which has almost reached its conclusion. Formally stating to the gathered crew, Captain Brutus will now pronounce the verdict.
He's kind of small for that species, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
Considering the guy that was at Maz Kanata's cantina, that dude was huge.
Very big. Yeah. 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 Oh, yeah, that's right. That was just a larger version of him for sure. Yeah, you're right.
Because we saw a really big one in the Bad Batch on the racing episode, right?
Right. And I think Isn't one of the Inquisitors that race too?
Maybe.
I believe so. Like the ninth sister or something like that.
Hmm.
We're on a tangent here, folks.
Nope. Off the rails
That's what we
already.
do. That's what we do.
Yep.
So that's another TLG. He also appears very much the same as like in this look as one of the Kanto aliens again.
Mm.
Presides over the trial of Sybil, which has almost reached its conclusion. Captain Brutus will now pronounce the verdict. Of course, Brutus finds the so-called mad Captain Silbo guilty. The crew hoots and cheers at the death sentence, but Brutus growls at them to shut them up. And gutturally he continues, "Death by airlock." The crowd renews its gruesome cheers. An older female pirate, Schalt, fidgets in her place, standing to Brutus's side. She appears not to want to make eye contact with the accused former captain, but with almost a coy look on his face. Like there's something going on between those two. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if it's just understated, but
Well,
she's
perhaps not everybody was happy with Brutus taking over,
and
right?
that's exactly what I was thinking. So she's sort of like fidgeting. He seems to sort of know that it's like, did you cut a scene where they had a quick conversation?
Mm.
But with almost a coy look on his face, Silbo stares at her. After a short minute, she shouts down the rowdy crowd, telling them to wait, asking, "What of equal time? Right of last appeal. So says the pirate code." The crowd groans at their own self imposed bureaucracy, and Brutus snarls a low growl, but Snee corroborates that this is the code. Reluctantly, Brutus declares equal time will begin, and the Schistavin depresses the top of a dormant hourglass as it jumps to life as a bright iridescent blue plasma begins to seep into the lower chamber. Jod exhales, seated, head still down. "I'm hungry," he admits, drawing guffaws from the audience. Continuing in a solemn tone, the former captain tells the group he's been hungry for as long as he can remember. He stands slowly looking around the cabin, turning the question toward his former mates. "How long have you been hungry?" The con begins in earnest. His energy rising slightly, growing with confidence, asking, "How long have you been struggling for scraps in corners of the galaxy, fighting over crumbs?" Brutus counters him, calling his oration glitter speech and the useless words of a dead man. But Silbo, hands still bound together, strides toward the captain without fear, gesturing to the hourglass by his side. "The plasma still runs, sir." And he turns to the crew, now yelling, fists clenched and brow furrowed, "We're all hungry." The crew audibly murmurs at his increasingly commanding tone, but he continues his desperate tirade. "Scraps are not enough." Closing his eyes, a calm oozes over his face. But what if they were? Imagine if there were a place where your take would never run out. The crowd now obviously growing more receptive to the glitter in his words. He turned to his old mate Glurb, the Quarren, addressing him directly as a friend, asking him to imagine owning his own ocean full of glowweed. The pirate has to admit that would be something. Turning to another pirate, addressing them singularly, he apologizes to the woman Kona. "I'm sorry," he tells her. He's failed her, and she nods in solemn agreement. She's adorned she's adorned with pieces of trooper armor, clone or storm, I'm not sure. I want to talk to Wes about that.
Well, we might be able to get an answer because it looks like he just chimed in on YouTube.
Yes,
Says, "I
sir.
love the plasma hourglass.
It's amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
Such a nice take on it too, right?"
There's a really good shot coming up where the director uses it perfectly. He tells her she deserves a command of her own with an entire fleet of ships. She nods in agreement, biting at the bait, asking, "What's the trick?" No trick, he admits, the hourglass now over halfway in the background. He continues holding aloft a solitary datary, calling it the virgin gleam of brand new Old Republic credits. They gather tight around him as he tosses the credit in the air and catches it flat in his palm on display for the now wrapped crew. Awesome at that, how he lost his crew in the first episode over a single credit, And now he's
Mm.
attempting to win them back with a single credit once again.
Yeah.
Shouting again, Sybil says they are real and he knows where they make them. He drops the bombshell that he heard it from Rennod himself, garnering a group of gasps from the pirates. Brutus flies to his feet, snarling, Rennod is dead. But Sybil begins a shanty. Rennod soared away, away, aboard the Onyx Cinder. The crew nervously begin to intone along with him. And never was he seen again. Pausing to let the crew finish. The last line speak. The last. I don't know what that says. I got a typo. The last line spoken before Silbo sings it loudly, finishing, "For at Aten he did plunder." Many of the crew now singing along. This is beautifully shot. I don't know if you guys can see the shot of him singing there. I think it's bottom middle.
Mm-hmm.
Jode's mouth is perfectly like the hourglass is framed behind his open mouth as he's singing. So as he's opening and closing his mouth, you can see the hourglass actually running out behind him.
Mm-hmm. It's
That's
like
a
a last desperate
that is a hell of a
call.
shot. That's like that's an art film shot. I love
Yeah.
that stuff. This is a beautifully shot scene. Howard has her hourglass perfectly in Jod's mouth as he sings the song while it runs out behind him. Gunter puts his 2 cents in. The stories are true. Sybil claps Gunter's shoulder, noting that Brutus, getting to Brutus, addressing the pirates as a whole, we all know Brutus makes a capable first mate. And the crew agrees in a murmur of ayes and yes. Now attempting the coup de grace of his bloodless coup, he tells them, stick with Brutus if you want to get a meager reward, but you stick with him and he'll give you the whole Crippen galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of thought he won.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he won the debate. But the last of the plasma is folded into the lower bulb of glass. Brutus shouts, "Time's up!" And Kona and Gunter flank Jod, the later sticking him stiffly in the midsection with a fist, dragging him before the dragging him before the Wolven captain. He grabs Silvo by the throat, pushing it against the inner airlock viewport. "We'll go see this at Aten, and if there's no treasure, you're going for a little ride." Shoving his face hard up against the transparent steel, Brutus smashes the button, evacuating several cargo containers into the inky vacuum to emphasize his point.
Just throwing cargo away.
Just
Jeez.
throwing cargo. They describe it as garbage, but it certainly
I
looks
hope so.
like boxes of cargo. Oh, I got aggressive on the button.
1, 2 there.
Yeah. So let's do this week's guest stars.
Mm-hmm.
Snobby is Snee, played by the amazing comedian and writer John Hodgman. I don't know if you guys know him. He's best probably for his appearances as an expert on Jon Stewart's Daily Show.
Mm-hmm.
He's also had minor roles in Battlestar Galactica, Parks and Rec, Community, 30 Rock, and he's been the weirdest, coolest lunatic ever since he won a huge lottery sum in 2006.
Nice.
He plays a character called the Mad Millionaire now, and he's a funny dude.
Nice.
Dale Sewell as Schalt. You might know her from Orange is the New Black,
Nice.
where she played Frida for 63 episodes. That's a long haul.
It's a good run.
Kona, played by Sissy Gray. She's been in Next Goal Wins, episodes of Grey's Anatomy and Bosch. And then Jacob Rowenhouse, special effects artist, making the leap to acting. Or he's got a line anyway. Some of his work includes Rebel Moon, Army of the Dead, Swamp Thing, X-Men Days of Future Past, Total Recall TV, like a ton of cool stuff, actually. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
Got a couple coming in here from Wes. Says there's a layer here that suggests Jod and Brutus had already been at odds long before the show started.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
You get
Otherwise,
the trading that sort. Like your first mate's no good. It's like the Sith code.
you're always trying
embedded.
to take the place of the guy in front of you.
Right, and you're not a good pirate if you don't climb the ranks by stabbing people in the back. Like that's that's how you get there.
Follows that up with, and only support of the crew saved his ass. Yeah. But I
Oh,
think
he had
based,
them,
oh
except
yeah,
Brutus, like, put his foot
kind of
down. But
reined them back in. But yeah, I do believe he's got a lot of support regardless of Brutus, right?
no, 100%.
Otherwise, they wouldn't have called for equal time or any
I
of
mean,
that.
he boiled a bunch of them and pulled a lightsaber or pulled a scimitar on a 12-year-old girl, and I was on his side in that scene.
Mm.
So,
And it's
uh,
kind of weird. Like they threw him, like they completely revolted against him at the beginning of the series for just the one credit.
right.
And in this scene, one credit's enough to kind of sway them
That's
back.
that's great writing.
But at the same time, all that treasure he came out of the of Rennod's lair with,
Yeah.
like that's more of the take than he probably brought in a year,
And
right?
you got to think, like, yeah,
It's like, look at what we're bringing back now.
they
And this is just the
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 tip of the
cherry.
iceberg, but they know,
Exactly.
like, so now that's all gone because the New Republic has access to that now.
Yeah,
You think about that whole Skull Mountain treasure is,
is probably
depending on the booby traps,
true.
if it goes in on itself, but that's a weird subplot that the New Republic just got a huge influx of money.
Hmm. Gaz has joined us here.
Guess,
Howdy.
guess, what is a good sir?
One more from
Uh,
Wes here. It says, but how attentive is his pull at the dreams of the others? Is that a crafty captain trying to save his own hide, or is he genuinely concerned for them?
oh yeah, no, he
Oh,
hasn't won me over that much.
no. I think
That's
he's
it.
still
He's
100% himself.
100% invested in his own hide. That
Yeah.
the entire scene was a grift,
Yeah.
and he's so good at being able to read a character and go, this is what they need from me, and be that. I imagine there's some sort of redeeming quality where he won't be able to, like,
Yeah. It'll be like a,
cut the throat, like,
yeah.
it's, I don't believe for a second that he would probably have done that, but
I think it'll come down to Brutus trying to hurt one of the kids.
well,
And
that
he's going
could
to make
be.
a choice to, do I stick with my pirates or do I help the kids?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, sacrifice yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Back on Lanupa, hovering garbage scows suspended barges from cables, which dump junk into piles around the landscape. They swoop over the top of Wim and KB as they follow their crab escort. Wim asks his companion if she's come with him because she actually believes in the trash crabs, or just because she's mad at Fern. She doesn't answer. Instead, she puts her head down and continues forward. The number of guide crabs has grown to a small throng, which all chant, "Follow, follow," as they lead their way through the denser piles of metal junk. Wim stops to stare at an old, beat up, deactivated droid as a tiny trash crab crawls from its left eye socket. Reminded of their found companion, he asks aloud if KB thinks 33 is okay. Looking back, Wim finds KB slumped down in a patch of sand in a seated position, head bowed down. She, like, reminds me of a droid. You know what I mean? Like a
Mm-hmm.
powered down droid.
Yeah, something's going on.
Yeah. He quickly rushes to her side, shouting her name. She can't move, barely able to speak now. She tells him her augs are corroded, and that's exactly what Fern asked her if she was worried about in the episode before.
Mm-hmm.
Worried about
About
your,
the steam getting
yeah, are you worried that's going
affecting
to
it.
corrode your augs? Yeah. So she was aware of that stuff. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
she's not necessarily. It's just so, like, an emotional a beat at loggerheads. She can't. Where did we go? She can't move, barely able to speak. She now tells him her augs are corroded. Uh, she asks Wim to gather some droid servos, almost in a whisper. Maybe we can fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Wim rushes off to scout for servos, and KB's breathing grows more labored. Cut to the cliffside.
Wes has a question. Do we accept that the trash crabs are intelligent enough to get those pipes of droid parts to speak for them? I got the impression it was just the crabs, like, you know, parroting, if you will.
Yeah, I thought those were. I don't. Yeah, because unless they're, I mean, that's super intelligent if you can get a protocol droid leg to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But so I actually thought the sounds were coming from the crabs,
Yeah.
and I don't know how you would adapt something like a mimicking thing, like to lure food to your mother or whatever the case is. Spoilers.
Wes doesn't think the crabs were actually talking. Fair enough.
Really?
I do wonder though if maybe there's some telepathy involved, like
I mean, they were,
with what we find later. But
and they were all. I mean, I got like Starship Trooper vibes, right? You know,
yeah,
a little bit. The bugs.
Wes says maybe they were.
Have you been drinking already, buddy? Cut to the cliffside as the garbage scows maneuver about the junkyard. Neil struggles to climb up the steep open ladder rungs. And like a construction guy, I'm like, those kids aren't tied off.
No.
That's an OSHA violation right there. He begs Fern to wait and to slow down. Several feet ahead, she yells back that they have to keep moving and he can't keep stopping. She says it's easy, step by step. But Neil can't reach between the rungs easily, pointing out Fern's spider legs. We pull back, and they're actually pretty high up already. He's sorry, but he explains not everyone can do the same things the way she can, and that's sort of the theme of this
Yeah.
episode.
He's literally vocalizing what KB can't
Absolutely,
or refuses to, right?
absolutely.
Wes says, I do accept that there were multiple voices, but it was all the same voice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's why that is my argument for that. It is the crabs
Yeah.
because you would have different vocabulators.
Yeah. And
You'd have
yes, drinks
different-
have been had.
Yeah, like you might get beeping and clicking from one.
Yeah. Or like, protocol droid from another.
Yeah. I suppose
would
if the big thing had spoke, that might have. Oh, spoilers.
Shh, we're not there yet. But
we pull back, and they're actually pretty high already. He's sorry, but he explains not everybody can do the things the same way she can. Always looking for a solution, Fern spots a piece of old rope hanging from a part of the pipe structure, and that rope looks greasy to me. In that
Little bit.
I said that out loud when I was watching. I was like, "That's a buttered rope. You don't want to use that."
Like I get the angle, but it looks super far away.
It does look
like
super,
I would not want to lean out there and try and grab that.
Yeah, I mean, they do some like Indiana Jones, James Bond stuff in a minute. That's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense for kids, but then you do go back and you watch those films from the 80s.
Yeah.
And there's a scene where Elliot in crashes with E.T. in the bike and it's I don't know what they did. They threw a kid at the ground really hard or whatever, but it looks super realistic and it's a big hard landing. And so I kind of admire the giving the kids a chance to do like grown-ups, like not that they're doing the stunts, but grown-up things to do. It's Star Wars. Every character in the Star Wars world starts with a higher base level of SDC. If you're a gamer, if you understand what that means, like you're just tougher than the average bear. The average person walking around the Marvel universe would kick the crap out of the average person walking around in our universe. It's a different kind of thing. Rope.
One more question from Wes.
Okay.
Also, how much fucking mechanical garbage does that hotel generate?
See, now I don't have any specific written theories about that, but I don't know how much of that is mechanical garbage and how much of this is just scrapping. And that, here's the thing.
It says, is there a civilization on Lanupa we didn't see? And
no, I work with a guy that he's one of my only employees these days, but he's like a scrapper himself. Like he will pull over on the 401 and to pick up a pop bottle or a tin can. And he makes all kinds of money being like crazy diligent. I always argue that you're wasting more in gas and stuff, but he's got it all figured out in his head as far as the math goes. But so there's big money in big scrapping. And if that's the case, then maybe you need an intense amount of capital to start like a spa or a rich kids club, or maybe it's that, but so maybe this is how they fund their operation.
Could be.
But I also think that like we saw on a few of the other worlds, like there was the ship scrapping yard right on Coruscant.
Yeah.
That you've got to and ostensibly 15 years on, 20 years on, 25 years on, you're still cleaning up the Clone Wars, especially the droid parts, especially the ship parts. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is like, and with the New Republic's responding so quickly, that
Mm-hmm.
this is exactly what that is a facility to get rid of uh,
Old parts and
old parts,
ships and whatever.
right, and maybe even more specifically separatist stuff. Although we didn't see, you know, in the if you watch the documentary about the creature that's coming up, and I haven't seen it in its entirety yet. That's why I don't have slides about the creators and stuff. But it's a stop motion character. And
Mm-hmm.
there are bits of legacy characters, like there is an R2 unit, there is a half a protocol droid, there are engine greebles from the Millennium Falcon. There are parts that are like large things that are on it. So
Mm-hmm. Hero versus NPC. Yes,
yeah, no,
exactly.
no, absolutely. And but the average NPC starts out sort of like even you know
Yeah. Yeah.
absolutely, but absolutely.
Also, the scraps of galactic civil war.
Right, and there's money in rebuilding that,
Yeah.
turning that to. I want to know. I have a question coming up in 2 slides. I think I have a question about
I
that.
just had a thought. Perhaps
Mm,
there's something way darker at this whole spa thing, right? Maybe it isn't just a bunch of new age hippies that came to build a spa. Maybe it literally is like a spider's web for rich folks,
well, I
because
mean,
they just we'll see it in a minute here,
yeah,
but like, could it be that you go in there and, like 33 said, we use the mud pits to dissolve the
right.
corpses of our enemies.
Or
Maybe people aren't coming back out of those mud
the
pits.
banking clan, but they're able to call the cops and have them respond.
Yeah,
But
as long as
yeah,
they
I
keep
mean,
keep them on
it's
the take.
it's possible.
Oh no, the New Republic's already gone dirty.
Well, we knew that was going to happen. Power corrupts.
Yep.
Cut back to the junkyard floor as Wim rushes back to KB with a small handful of parts, hoping it's enough. Slowly, she meters out her words, telling him it is. She begins to show him what needs to be done. He has to open the part and unwind the lighter wires. He gently takes the part from her and sets to work. In a calm tone, he asks her if she's ever had to do this before. Having trouble speaking, she tells him, sort of, not outside though. Wim asks her if it's the reason she didn't want to climb. She manages to lift her head back to look at him directly. She could have just told Fern, saying that her friend is not always living in the real world. Wim agrees, but he doesn't really understand. She tells him that she had an accident, and ever since Fern has always acted like she could do anything Fern could do, as if nothing happened, like she wasn't different now. Wim thinks that's a good thing. KB stresses, I am different now. And
Mhm.
pulling up her silver backed hair, she bends her head to reveal a small panel on the back of her AUG, asking him to pull out the resonator housing and remove the microfuse. He admits he doesn't know what that is, so she describes it for him.
Well, Wes questions accident.
Yeah, yes. And
So probably they were friends prior to whatever happened.
these are organic things that are popping up about the characters that just make you want to know more.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like I really like some of these characters and would like to follow them into adulthood in some fashion. I don't know if I would, I don't know if we need 10 seasons of this. You would start to get like how many pirates can you fight?
Mm-hmm.
But some of the characters are absolutely compelling to me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Even if we got like 3 seasons and do some time jumps in between.
Absolutely. And I have heard some stuff from the writers that said they wrote it like a closed book that could easily be opened, and their ideas are adjusted for the natural aging of the children between the series.
That's
So
cool.
that is super cool because it's something that Stranger Things didn't do. And
Yeah.
now we have 25-year-olds in high school.
Yeah.
As Wim reaches inside her skull, he pulls out what looks like one of our computer's hard drives, complete with the ribbons of concentric wires attaching to parts deeper inside the young girl. And you can see it's more than just, and assuming this is what's going on in Echo, assuming this is what's going on Lobot, characters like that, that
Mm-hmm.
it's not just something that's like
It's not just like a pair of sunglasses you put on. This is a fully
right. This is
integrated.
inside the back of your brain. Uh, she admonishes herself for thinking she could run along run around on a freezing cold moon, through a bunch of steam, and climb a cliff after days without maintenance. That's not reality, Fern. Like she's speaking to Fern, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wim doesn't seem to notice. He pulls the corroded fuse out. Wim hands it to her, saying she should just tell Fern that, but KB protests, saying Fern doesn't have the patience for that, and then she'll have zero friends again.
Oh,
Title
breaks
name
your
drop.
heart,
I
eh?
know, right? Title name drop embedded in the episode again. So
Yeah.
that's kind of Wim thinks that's dumb. Besides, she can always just be friends with him and Neil, that's awesome. He's
Yeah,
just
and
very
she gives like just the slightest little smile, like, "Oh
no,
man,
yeah,
you just realized you got more friends now.
yeah,
Like you don't just
absolutely
have Fern."
right. Touched, KB manages a smile. Meanwhile, Wim has a bunch of wire unspooled into a small metal container. She tells him to take the torch, which she retrieves from her utility belt, and to melt the wires down. KB begins to audibly make sounds of discomfort, maybe even pain. Her breathing becomes more ragged. Wim hurries to melt the wire. And I'm trying not to pay the attention to the fact that he's doing smelting barehanded.
Yeah, holding that thing
Whatever that metal is he's using is the most awesome. I want
low.
some.
Yeah.
It is non-conductive. He should be trying to patent that. KB, it was so distracting. I had to, like, as a guy who knows a thing or two about stuff like that, I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's crazy. um KB pushes her old fuse into the loose sand in front of her in the vertical position, pulling it out carefully. She's making a mold. She instructs her new friend to pour the molten metal carefully into the hole, and as he does, it's cooled instantly, the exposed end skinning over shiny metallic silver. She tells him to remove the newly minted fuse and replace it in her AUG. Rushing around behind her, he fumbles to push the small piece into the housing and has trouble putting her AUG back. But at her urging, he pushes harder and it snaps into position, her panel automatically closing. There's an audible digital sound emitted from KB, something similar to a hard drive spooling up or a low
Mm,
frequency fax machine. And with a large exhale, KB slumps forward. And I thought they killed Tech again.
yeah.
I
It's
I
like, uh-oh, it didn't
I
work.
was I wasn't in tears, but I was welling up. I was like, did you guys would you do that? Did you just do that? Because I've
Yeah.
seen you do it before. Not necessarily with a young character, but you rotten buggers. uh and of course, Wim crawls back to the front for pan.
Wes here. I contemplate the security of the accident. Oh, it meant the severity of the accident.
Yeah.
If it's consummate to the proportion of her head that is cybernetic.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a that's a big chunk of her brain, like
Yeah.
uh I like, and we know they can do crazy stuff with the cybernetics in Star Wars, and most of it's not really, there's no science to it, it's not spoken of, but
Yeah.
we know that there can be full, like, you can go the Vader route, so that you can have like almost no no
Yeah.
parts but your consciousness. You could go Bomar Monk, where you're
A brain in a
nothing but
jar.
a brain in a jar on droid legs. So
And then there's
um
like the mod guys from Book of Boba Fett that fixed up oh, Ming Na Wen.
right,
Oh,
replacing her whole internal guts,
yeah.
assumedly. I mean, every other
Fennec
character
Shan,
has a
thank you.
prosthetic. Fennec Shan, there it is, man. Every other character has a prosthetic limb,
Mm-hmm. It's
right?
like a
Like,
rite of passage in Star Wars.
it must be the logical leap. We can do this with droids all day long. Let's just put a droid part on it. Even a small girl 3 episodes goes, let's just rewire such and such's brain because it's only a couple million
Couple million
circuits.
circuits.
Like, so, child's play, right?
Yep. Wes says, Jeebus Grievous, my heart was in my throat when I thought Disney crossed the line. The let's kill a
That's
child line.
exactly what I said. And it's not the only time this episode, like, when she first comes out of the water slide tube and she
Yeah.
hits hard and wakes up last, I was
And
like,
she's not
holy,
moving. It's like,
you
uh-oh.
know. There's a few other, I'll speak of it. That was the main one, but there's a couple more. One with another character that I thought, because then I started to, and it was all based on our conversation about character immunity and how we're guaranteeing that all these kids survive. Maybe
Yeah.
maybe 33 doesn't. That would be the tear jerker. And then I was starting to question that in this episode. But that's what you have to do is you have to make me go, the stakes are high enough. I'm actually worried about these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know I said this about a few different actors last night, but like James Bond movies are fun, but nothing bad's ever going to happen to them.
No,
So
he's
the
always gonna
stakes are
make it.
never high enough to go truly. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Tom Cruise could actually probably get killed in a movie and they'd keep it in. He
Mhm.
does some crazy stuff in real life.
Yeah.
But it's nice to see like high stakes stuff like this and that keep me on my edge. And it actually it gets way worse in terms of that. Wim crawls back to the front of her, panic etched across his face as she continues to sit there motionless. Suddenly, the light in her headset blinks to life, and she sits up abruptly with a huge inhalation, causing Wim to jump back, gasping on his own. KB wiggles her fingers, looking around, rising quickly to her feet, brushing herself off, standing stiff the way she does. That was close, she admits. To what? Wim wants to know, still sitting agog in the sand patch. Total system shutdown, she tells him nonchalantly. Packing her tools, she muses, Wim probably thought it would be more exciting saving someone's life. Anyway, with a broad smile stretched across her face. Thanks, Jedi. And now I'm a blubbering mess. That was awesome.
Such a line too, though. Thanks,
Such
Jedi.
yeah, that was wicked.
Yeah.
Tapping the side of her og.
Oh, Wes says, except for that one time when Bond called a missile strike on his own head.
Was that David Niven?
Maybe. Looks like we need a new Bond.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now there is that rumor that Bond is an identity rather than an actual
that it's
singular.
just a title that's passed
Right,
down,
yeah.
right? But
Tapping the side of her og with her visor snaps down and she continues along with the trash caps. Still stunned, sitting in the patch, a slow smile creeps across Wim's face. He's okay with being called Jedi.
yeah.
He quickly scrambled to his feet, hurrying after his new pal. Cut back to Fern and Neil, much higher up the side of the cliff now, on a more proper section of ladder with a guardrail around it at least.
Yeah.
Fern, with Neil now physically tied to her, calls out their progress in a cadence. And step. And step. Periodically, she checks back on her partner, and he's able to manage much better now with her helping to lift him with every rung. Above them, Neil notices the cinder dip over the side of the landing pad as several scows carry it by tether, heading for a scrapping. With renewed determination carved in her face, Fern tells Neil, we're about to get out of here.
And see, this is the thing that makes me think maybe they are just, scrapping ships that show up.
I mean, that's true. That's
'Cause,
true.
They got the stuff to move it off their main, landing
I never
platform.
think when they like, so you see the Falcon for the first time, and when I was a kid and I see the Falcon for the first time, and I'm like, oh my god, look at that, it's amazing. And the characters are going, you came in this hunk of junk, you brave.
Yeah.
And then and Jod is like, what is that when you see, and I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a sharp looking ship. I really like that. So I mean, but maybe this is what they do with junkers like that. There is some interesting back stuff going on here because
Yeah.
the junkyard is vast,
It is.
and if you
Very
know a
much.
thing about realistic hermit crabs, it would take a lot, like thousands of years to get that big.
Mm-hmm.
Ostensibly, they might be able to do it. I've never had one last more than a month.
Gaz says there was a time when Blofeld killed Bond's wife in a drive-by.
Right.
True.
I mean, I guess that's stakes.
Yeah.
The Fleming novels.
True. It says that was the end of On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Right.
And then follows that up with then Roger Moore visits her grave after killing Blofeld, not Blofeld, at the beginning of For Your Eyes Only. So we're turning into a Bond recall here.
Yeah. Somebody say pussy galore.
Octopussy.
All right, we're gonna do a.
We're back to some seafood here.
We'll do a Bond cast in a second.
There you go.
Back with KB, Wim now led by dozens of trash crabs chanting to follow as they make their way through an increasingly rocky terrain. As they round a corner, a gigantic crab claw slams down into a boulder, shocking the kids to a terrified halt. Enormous enough to be housed in a section of Starship Hall, the trash crab giant perches on top of its craggy hill, dwarfing the skeleton crew members. Wim addresses the creature hesitantly. Sir? Or ma'am? The clawed behemoth utters a tremendous roar from its beastly snapping maw that rustles the children's hair with the sheer force of its breath. Wim, realizing they are in deep trouble, turns, but now hundreds of small crabs surround them, closing in. KB remarks she thinks they're food, to which the smaller crabs begin to chant, food, food,
Yep.
food, food.
Not enough to go around, though, for that one.
No.
Wes points out, are we going to weigh in on the likeness to the Bad Batch crabs?
Yeah,
And I would think so, yeah.
I didn't do a slide, so but yeah, absolutely. There's that.
The crabs at the beginning of season 2, right?
Yeah.
When Omega does her crazy down the wire thing. But yeah, they do bear a striking resemblance to
striking
that particular
resemblance,
one.
like that. These don't have a shell option, so they instead use garbage.
Yeah, and I think that's just like a location thing, right? Because in the Bad Batch, they're on this tropical island where there's probably a variety of shells and whatnot to choose from. And here, they're literally using what they've got.
Even in nature, a hermit crab, you see them in pop cans and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Back with Fern and Neil now, who have managed to position themselves on top of the arm of a crane sticking. Everybody keeps getting in more precarious positions for kids, and it's awesome.
At least they're tied off this time.
Yeah, to each other. That's an OSHA violation. Back with Fern and Neil now, who have managed to position themselves on top of the arm of a crane sticking precariously out from the side. High above the snow-covered certain death, the scows bring the cinder down and close to them, with Neil begging no. As soon as the scow passes beneath them, she leaps, Neil pulling her after, still tethered with the rope. So this is her Indiana Jones,
jump on the moving train thing.
There's a huge, so it passes directly, but it's like a 20 or 30 foot drop.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just like we jumped a foot and it was perfect and now we have to duck under the crane. They plummet and hit hard and stick the landing. It's great. Like Wes said, heroes versus NPCs.
Mm-hmm. And I assume their weight would push the craft down a bit, so it would reduce the impact a little bit.
No, absolutely. You have a little bit of a buffer,
but still,
it's like a flat. There's no handrails on that sucker.
No.
Wim can't believe that he's always wrong about who the good guys are. Pulling out his comm device, he tries to contact the other team as the trash crabs close in, the kaiju lumbering toward them. KB points toward the cinder, clearly being pulled by their direction by the garbage barzers. She hits control on the side of her AUG, proclaiming, "It's Fern and Neil." Having found a joystick on the hull of the scow, Fern struggles against its droid pilot to lower it as Neil points out the other half of the crew just off in the distance. Over by that giant crab.
Mm-hmm. Wes says no, but mysteriously there is a joystick.
So it's called the manual control panel.
Have we not seen this before, though? I'm pretty sure we saw this before in one of the wrecking yards.
I feel like I've seen them pop a panel and have a manual control, but the voice over guy calls it a manual control stick and emphasizes that she's fighting with the droid for control over the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is what you would do to get it unstuck or something like that.
Yeah.
Having found a joystick on the hull of the scow, Fern struggles against the droid pilot to lower it as Neil points out the other half of the crew just off in the distance. It's like I said too, when you don't ask too much of me as a show to take you too seriously or proclaim that you're going to be the best mystery you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
I don't ask too much in return, so I let you make little things like that. And I don't. I tend not to focus on them so much.
That, though.
I do too.
It really rings a bell from the Bad Batch where they go to Coruscant to the wrecking yard to recover the hard drive. And when I think it's Tech that I'm just going to hotwire this thing and use the manual override and drive it out, right?
It's the shot reminds me of Never Ending Story.
A
like
little bit, yeah.
the camera angle
The
on
Falcor angle.
the Falcor angle. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, West points out also maintenance requirements that
Yeah.
would
It's
require biological input.
yeah, it's
Hmm.
perfectly feasible to me.
That'd be quite the job, laying around flying a joystick.
You'd think they'd have a chair. 23? Yeah. Wim kicks at the smaller crabs now, which nip at the kid's feet. Fern struggling manages to wrest control from the droid, bringing the scow low. KB and Wim leap on top, and as they begin to pull away, Neil confirms, "We got him." Deprived of its dinner, the giant crab picks up a huge boulder in its mighty claw and hurls it after its prey. The sizable rock crashes into one of the other three scows, snapping the tether and whipping the cinder and its attached scows around like a tilt-a-whirl. Clinging for dear life as a scow, I've said the scow so many times it doesn't make sense anymore, is dashed about, crashing through the garbage piles. Eventually, our heroes are flung hard into the snowy terrain. Uh, and that's so Kate, the pilot, I guess she's still hanging on to the thing, like she rides it out, but only 3 kids fall here initially, and I thought, "Oh no,
Hmm.
are we going to find Fern in the wreckage?" So with them putting so close to danger, with them putting the characters so close to danger, I start to worry. I
Hmm.
think they'll all make it this season, but you do start to
They
worry,
do
and they're
put you
doing
on
a
the edge
good
of your
job
seat.
of keeping me tense. Like I said to Wes, I had my fingers in the armchair. Uh, and when they're crashing through, like they hit hard, like that's
Hmm.
you know they hit hard and hold on. That's nutty.
Hmm.
KB is first on her feet. Wim asks everyone if they have any broken bones, exclaiming how awesome that was to Neil, who admits they're getting good at falling. But KB wants to make that the last time. And that was some chuckle out loud stuff. We're
Yeah.
getting good at falling. Fern rushes in, shouting KB's name, happy to see her friend safe, and throws her arms around her in a huge hug. The boys join the hug, and KB tells Fern that Wim fixed her Augs. The kin spend a few rapid seconds recounting their parts of the adventure and praising one another for being so awesome. Fern turns to KB, almost in tears, sorry for not listening to her. KB, raising her visor, tells her she's the one who's sorry for being afraid to not tell her there were things she couldn't do. That's okay with Fern, and after confirming they are still best friends, they hug again. Neil, ever aware of his surroundings, points out the scraping and twisting, smashing metal sounds that begin to grow louder. KB flips her Og visor down and races up a shallow, snowy hill, her crew mates right on her heels, to peer down at the scrapper barge slowly crawling forward on its way to the downed cinder onyx. Its claws mimic the crabs as it pulls scrap into its fiery furnace of a maw.
It's
And I
like a.
think we've seen that in the Bad Batch too. Maybe
Hmm.
not this device, but we've seen an incineration sort of
Yeah.
droid, I think.
And this is like, it's played out in a lot of different movies, right? Like
No,
in different ways,
absolutely.
like, you're, or when Indiana Jones is knocked out on the treadmill going towards the rock crusher,
Right,
and
right.
it just
Or
ramps that tension
yeah.
right up.
And the same when he's on the boat in the Last Crusade, and the propeller is chopping the boat up.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they do, and it's the quick cuts. That's why there's many slides with large pictures and not a lot of narration, because they're very quick cuts but important visuals. It's the
Hmm.
tension is very high.
And like the wrecker, I guess you want to call it, but very
Mm.
similar in manner to the crab, like with the reaching of the teeth, right?
No, it's perfect. We go from organic
To
threat
mechanical.
to mechanical threat, and they're both ostensibly the same thing. And we not only do we up the size and the intensity, but we give it up like a sort of a fire breathing dragon quality.
Hmm.
If something's going to kill your way home, it's an
Yeah.
existential threat. They're trying to save a member of their crew, which I love, which is the
Yes.
ship. So it gives me like one piece willies when I think of it that way.
Yeah. Wes says the droid foundry's on Geonosis. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. 100. Vern says it aloud. We've got to save our ship. And then, yelling like braves, the skeleton crew races down the hill and right into certain doom. Quickly, they make it on board to the cockpit where KB, who has watched 33 and Jod boot the ship up, goes through the sequence perfectly. Suddenly, the whole ship rocks as the incinerator barge plunges its claw ever closer to the cinder's hull in full view through the canopy window. KB needs to jump start the engine as the takeoff sequence isn't fast enough. Neil asks who's going to fly, and she gives him the helm. Once again, Neil takes the pilot's seat. Wim, his
Neil.
eyes. Neil. Oh, the geeks.
Yep.
Neil's wicked. Wim, his eyes wide with fear, lurches back as the scrapper barge finally sinks a claw into the ship. Racing for the turret, he decides maybe he's able to blast the mechanical behemoth off. Meanwhile, Fern steals as Neil works the throttle.
Wes says, also reminds me of the evil humans mining unobtainium on Pandora and Avatar.
Never seen it. Never had a Big Mac. Never seen that movie.
He says, follows that up with the Onyx Mothra. We'll get there in a moment.
We will. The chrysalis.
Yes.
In the engine room, KB runs full speed at the dormant control module, striking it with a heavy rod with all her might. It springs to life, rapidly bringing the engines online. Wim jumps into the gunner seat, ascending to the turret bubble as the incinerator claws its way further up the ship, crushing a forward gun emplacement. Bringing the cannons around, the young adventurer opens fire on the claws, but it's no use as he exclaims, "It's too invincible!" Echoing Luke's observations from the Battle of Hoth regarding the strength of AT-AT armor. That armor is too strong for blasters.
Another callback here too,
Yeah.
though, right? With KB in the engine, with Solo, whacking the
Oh,
hardware
that's
drive to get her
that's
going
very
again.
true. That's very true. Yeah. Hear me, babies. Hold together.
Yep.
KB keeps everyone posted of the engine status. Almost ready. Now, go. Neil slams the throttle forward in his tiny hand, and the Cinder's engines burst to life, pivoting for vertical takeoff. Fern pulls the yoke with all her might, but as but as the back half of the ship leaves the ground, the front is held anchored by the armored claws of the incinerator. Fern screams for more power from the helm. KB says she can provide one final surge. She plugs a physical connection into a port in the engine controls. And I'm not sure if she jacked in fully, but I thought she was about to sacrifice herself so everyone could get away. So that's like the third time I thought they were about to kill a child.
Yeah.
I really
Just
did
keep
thought.
hitting you this episode.
I'm still not actually clear to me whether she jacked herself in there, and I get the impression that that's what it was, like some sort of manual override that she could perform. It fails to work, and the ship is pulled down, slamming aground once more. The trash grinding droid nears nearly halfway up the hull as Fern scrambles for a solution. KB screams from engineering that the control panel is overheating as thick smoke billows from its housing. Then there's a glimmer in Fern's eye. We have to blow it off the hull. The emergency hull demolition sequencer. Wim gasps, nearly ecstatic about the thought of pressing the forbidden button. Neil reminds his captain that 33 said never to touch that. KB echoes the words exactly. Never, ever, never touch it. But the ship is now drawn into the barge, the fore of its hull now being threshed by the whirling jaws of the incineration scrapper. Fern flips the cover to the button. Open, it stares back at her, a single black dial wreathed in a glowing yellow-white light.
I love the look her and Neil exchange here. Like,
yeah,
it's like, okay, this is our last shot.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do?
With one last glance at Neil for reassurance, she turns and decisively turns the dial. Gates of hell be damned. A series of timed demolitions begin to rock the cinder as sections of its outer hull blow off in fiery arcs and trails of black smoke. The precise explosions travel all around Wim and the turret as the engines roar with intent and the ship begins to slide backward out of itself.
There's a little bit of Orabesh that pops up on that screen there.
Yeah, did you catch that?
I did. It's just warning and danger repeated.
Nice.
So
I would imagine.
Yeah.
Good.
Wes
good
says, I called it. We're coming back to this button, and whatever it was going to save the day.
It's perfect, man.
And it
Nailed
really
it.
is. It's a callback to last episode too, which, in the hologram of Rennod, you don't even take notice of. He's like, yeah, I got the ship fully armored and ready for war.
Right.
And it just right over my head.
In episode 1, pirates have armored their ships'
Yeah,
hulls with and adorned their ships' hulls with
with extra plating and everything.
not a self-destruct.
Exactly.
I thought it was beautifully executed.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Fern yanks on the stick with all of her might, and a smaller, sleeker ship begins to emerge from the wreckage like an arm from a sleeve. Finally, she comes free, bucking like a bronco. The Cinder crew is now in a smaller, sleeker, and clean metallic finish, with a clean metallic finish to her. I have to point out that the Cinder's sleek new fit looks very much like Darth Maul's scimitar had a baby with an X-wing.
Hmm.
That's a cool looking ship.
Yes. No more dust and rust falling off it
No,
now.
it's crispy, man.
Yeah.
Fern desperately tries to gain control, bouncing the ship off the ground a few times, echoing The Force Awakens and Rey in the Falcon for the first time, before gaining control and pointing the newly birthed ship skyward. KB tries to smother a fire in the control unit, with Wim still firmly in the gunnery seat and Fern and Neil at the helm. I think the crew have found their stations. The Onyx Cinder ascends into the clouds towards space, towards At-Aten, towards home. Cut to black.
Oh, but Wim utters his
Mm.
one word or his one line. Claims
What's
he's on the new ship.
Oh, that's right.
First one to
Claims,
call it.
yeah, claims he's on the new ship.
Wes says, I get Moldy Crow vibes too.
Moldy Crow vibes. Nice.
Yeah.
Man, so that was absolutely by far my favorite episode of the season. Heads and
Very cool.
tails.
But like they've gelled as a crew now, right?
Oh man, that's amazing. Like even the cast has, that's the one thing. There's been a little bit of like clunky, like the mildest amount, but not once have I thought I'm watching people act. I'm just watching characters reacting to their environment, which is like so much better than something that's like, so I don't want to name any other Star Wars shows.
Yeah.
But I compared it to Wes, I said in the chat, like the difference between Lost and Baywatch.
Hmm.
And that's what I find like that's so good.
Wes says, it wasn't lost on me that for the first time the kids are on their own, are fulfilling the duties of a starship crew.
No, absolutely. That's why I say I think these are their stations. Flash forward 5 years, Wim's in the turret, KB's, in the engine room or working the hyperdrive, and the other two are at the helm in some fashion. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it really does feel like they've all found their positions,
Yeah,
and organically too.
we just need to get 33 back, and
Absolutely. And I mean, Fern has proven to be a solid leader.
yeah,
I think that I know it was KB's episode and amazing character development. KB's kind of leapfrogging other characters is my favorite in terms, but I have a feeling that's what the episodes are designed to do. I
hmm,
think Wim's centric episode will be episode 8, and we
yeah,
haven't had a Fern a centric episode. But I found the performance by Fern to be incredible in this episode.
yeah.
A real
Well, her
uh,
character gets a lot of emotional growth too, right? Like,
yeah,
finally accepting for or KB's limitations, and just
yeah.
basically by having Neil call her on it, right?
No, it's excellent to see children with a range like that, because you can get into some weeds.
Yeah,
Kids and animals, they
yeah,
say.
yes, they do.
Mm. So yeah, I mean that was a strong maybe 9 for me. I don't know.
I'm,
Wes, anybody else out there in La La Land?
hmm
What'd you think of that?
I'm putting her at a 9 too myself.
Yeah, it's really strong.
Yeah.
Where do we think we're headed?
Um. Well, like KB said, she has the coordinates, so I think it's
Hmm.
basically now a race to At-Aten, and like we saw on Akron, they're going to get back there, and I think they're going to reveal that At-Aten has those ground cannons just like they do on Akron,
Right,
and
and
it's going to be a big clash.
I do get the feeling that the Pirates have the edge and the lead. Like if the events of that were chronological, and there's no reason to believe that they're not, we're not playing with that sort of trope here.
Yeah.
The Pirates definitely will arrive first, and they will arrive in the middle of something horrendous.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's neat that the treasure is gone. Like,
Yeah,
I should have brought this up. Yeah,
definitely
absolutely.
favorite episode to date.
I
9
should
from
have
Wes as
brought
well.
this up in the middle of the episode, but it just occurred to me now that it didn't make it into my notes. Sometimes I run out of time or
It's
thoughts.
all good.
The lightsaber.
Yeah.
So
Would
who's got the lightsaber, and does he have it? Is he so cocky that he's not worried about not having it physically on him? Did he hoop it like
I
it is?
I'm wondering
Yeah.
if maybe he pulled what's his face from Andor,
Mm,
Stellan Skarsgård, where he just kind of stashes it in his coat pocket.
I mean that's that's probably true.
I
But they
mean,
stripped his coat ostensibly. He's in
true.
his Lando shirt, which is like the puppy shirt from Seinfeld.
But at the
So I
same
mean
time, I
it's
think the pirates would be more concerned, like, oh my God, look at all this treasure we're taking off him.
I think something that's Wes said earlier too, that I think there are sympathetic crew.
Yes.
I think that you'll find that maybe Schalt and maybe even Glurb
Well,
and
like
the guy he was talking to, the
when they
older
first
fella.
broke out, right?
Right.
He's like, oh,
Maybe.
you. Oh, wait, you're not supposed to be
I
in.
mean, when he says Brutus makes a fine first mate, there's a round of aye, yeah, he does, yeah.
Yeah.
So there are two camps, there are two factions there.
Luthen,
Luthen,
exactly. That's the
yeah.
dude.
Well, yeah.
What says, we need to have another tense moment where Jod is forced to choose. And yes, he's going to choose the kids. But if they can make me even think for a second that he's going to choose the pirates.
Well, that's just it. And I think it's a like Andy said at the beginning, if it's something that Brutus has the knife to the throat where it's almost not a question if he'd pull the stroke,
Yeah.
will Jod make the right decision? And you would think, for at least in terms of what we have is basically a kid's romp. You want tension. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I don't know if you're gonna cut a cut a head off or something like that. Certainly, an accident is crazy. I just want to know more about these characters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having the time of my life on this show, and it's so refreshing to watch.
Wes says there is the idea that piracy is a fast road to wealth that not everyone is in by choice but by circumstance.
No, that's very true, and his speech does reflect that.
Yeah, like Wes says here, guy wants to be a farmer, not a pirate. And
I don't
that
know.
whole
I think
scene, it,
glowweed.
yeah.
Maybe he wants to be another kind of farmer. But
But
that's true. Everybody wants to retire. A
yeah,
lot of that is like, yeah, when I get out of this place, I'm going back to my horse ranch, or I've always dreamed of owning a shrimping boat.
yeah. It's kind of reminiscent of Shrek 3, where Prince Charming goes into the evil guy's bar. It's like, what did you want to be? And he's like, oh, I want to grow this. I want to be a
Right,
florist.
right,
I want
right,
to be a pianist.
right,
But
right. That's
it's
hilarious.
all from perspective, right?
That was awesome. I think I don't. It was a 26-minute episode. I think we did it justice. It
I
didn't have
think so.
a ton of Easter eggs. A couple of aliens I couldn't identify. I'm still curious if we're going to get any of the ships, like some meat on those, and that often
Mhm.
comes out in like a book by Doug Chang later on, where we get
Yeah.
a ship name or a classification. But I'm always itching at things like that, and I'm just enjoying the story so much that it's hard to go, that blaster was this.
Mhm.
It's a little tougher to go when you're like,
You're
the,
in
the
the
stakes are
story's
high,
got
and
you, right?
absolutely, and it's such a sort of fast pace now. And like we said, I don't think we're going to breathe, and I was right that you certainly couldn't breathe really in that episode. Like there's emotional breathing, but you're on the move. The tension was high.
Hmm.
Yeah, excellent stuff.
Do we have any predictions going into the next one?
I think, I don't know. So you kind of want everything to be the finale. You think there's a pit stop before Ad-Atten? You think we hit Ad-Atten right away?
I think we might have a pit stop, just because Jod was like, refuel my ship.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something the kids have not yet run into, right?
Oh
Like,
well,
oh crap, we're out of gas. We need to
certainly
stop somewhere.
they're not going to refuel the ship and then scrap it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, there's that. Maybe they go back to Kim for some help.
Maybe.
That's a surefire way of getting the New Republic on task.
Mm,
Bringing the New Republic with them to fight the pirate fleet might be the way it's going to go down.
it could be. Yeah,
Yeah,
them bringing their own, backup to save the planet, right?
awesome.
Which will then lead us to the other thing of what the hell's going on
Right.
Anat.
I want to see Zeb flying one of those X-wings so bad.
Oh, yes. Wes
Yeah, and
says,
like I say, I think the pirates have the edge there.
little bit.
I
Wes
mean,
says it's
maybe
a race, but who gets there first?
maybe there's another secret button
Could be.
where we get turbos.
I wonder if they're going to circle back like they did with the armor thing. Like, we're not thinking of it, but maybe in the finale or the final episode, Jod kind of throws himself and Brutus into the airlock, sacrificing them to save the kids.
Oh, that could be cool. I had thought about that, the emergency hull demolition
Sequencer.
What would be the purpose of that under normal circumstances? Because it's not singularly designed to get out of an incinerator's maw.
No,
But I
I'm
had a
thinking,
practical thought, and I don't know if you're on the same page with me.
what do
A
you got?
tractor beam.
A track. Oh, that could work.
I mean, you would want it to be the grandmother of all escapes from that said.
Like once you've
You
gone
know.
through the battle, you protected your ship with the armor.
Right.
Now you need to get away.
It's not something you would do every fight and go put more armor on your ship,
No.
ostensibly.
No, it would be
But
like a.
would it work? Would Wes, do you think that you would get away from a tractor beam with that trick?
Wes says Jod has Jedi training, so he has potential. True.
Well,
I mean, we could also end up with another Last Jedi moment with him, Mary Poppins, and his way back to the ship, just like Leia did, right?
no, that's very true.
But another thing we could weigh in is, I mean, obviously the armor made it heavier because it had to add the extra 2 engines on the front portion.
Right.
How fast is the ship without it?
Well, so in some of those shots, I tried to include a lot of shots of it being born. That's what I was calling it. It was like because where the cockpit was in the big one isn't where the cockpit is in the small one. It's still
Similar
on the side,
positioning,
but it's very tight. Like it's a much sort of tighter, suggesting that the ship was kind of in there off-centered.
Wes says, I think that comes back to him in the end.
Noise.
In the same way that Fletchet Launcher allowed Luthen to, yes.
Okay. Yeah, maybe.
Well, we only got 2 more episodes to go, so we don't have too long to find out. But
and then we'll have to discuss what we're doing after that, because it's wrapped. Like 8 weeks is like boom.
Yeah, it's
7
gone
weeks
by super fast.
I mean, I guess that's going to happen when you're having a really good time. Time is fun when you're having flies.
Nice.
Wow, that's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I can't say enough good stuff about it, but I think I've said enough tonight. Are you
Yeah,
guys
so-
you're not back Tuesday, are you? Are you whipping your own thing up Tuesday?
I'm still debating, but I don't know if I should be flying solo.
Oh, I'll see what's going on. I do have a lot of work things going on. Being on call is a weird beast, but I'll see what I can do to bail you out there. We'll talk.
Wes says maybe we should go to Droids or Ewok Season 2.
Or could we keep going on action figures?
Black Series keeps going, right?
Black Series keeps going. I'd be down for any one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
How long to the next? When's Andor? Do we have a date? A hard date?
I do not know for sure, but it is definitely coming in 2025.
Late winter or early spring, I think. Yeah. Crazy cool.
But
well, I think that's us, guys.
I believe
Thank you
so.
for sticking around. We had some great stuff in the chat tonight. That was awesome. Be sure to check us out on all our platforms, our entire back catalog. It's free. You don't got to pay anything if you don't want. You can hit the subscribe button. You can hit the like button if you like. That helps us out a lot. We're everywhere that it's early 25, I believe. Yeah, I think so too. Wherever you socialize online.
We're trying
Thanks,
to be
man.
there.
Thank you, guys. We'll be there. And on Tuesday nights, you can join normally Andy and Wes and their random fandom stuff. I think you can call in on that show, can't you?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah. Can you
might not
call
be
in
able
on this
to.
show? We've never really posted a link to that, but
I don't
ostensibly
think we have, but technically,
ostensibly
yeah,
you
we could. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And check out our TeePublic. check out our Patreon. We have one way of supporting us, one
support.
tier, and you get cool things like the show notes where you can see how atrocious my spelling is, and that I have no idea what some of the characters are named sometimes, so I just kind of wing it when I when I get up here. Fun stuff like that. But thanks again, guys. We always love doing this. It's always a blast. It's weird without Wes. Enjoy yourself. Get drunk. Get home safe, so that we can reconvene. I think Wes is a gone again next week.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
on the return journey from parts unknown next week.
Right.
So.
He'll be and then for the finale, Wes will be back. Things will be normal.
Yes.
There will be 33% more beard. So I'll say Wes's tagline for and everything you do, make sure that you fan on something. I'm paraphrasing Wes, sorry. And for Fandom Power, I'm Hank.
I'm Andy.
And bye for now. We'll catch you on the next one.
Peace.